The clock is ticking for the shorts. That's the short sellers for NIO stock. NIO as a company is moving up the rankings with their sales, and that's even without the deliveries of the Onvo, the L60, which will start in September. And then Firefly next year in 2025. NIO will continue to move up the rankings, but I wanted to start here, and I'm actually going to also talk briefly about the EU tariffs and why the German brands that are competing with NIO in the premium segment could be in a lot of trouble with this. And it really might position NIO to dominate. And we may see even bigger numbers for NIO on the sales side with their premium brand moving forward. But hang on, I'll get to that in just a second. First, let's start here. And what's on screen is the NEV brands. This is the combination of both pure electric vehicles, or BEVs, battery electric vehicles, and the hybrids, essentially. So the hybrids are depicted in the orange color. The green represents the BEV sales. NIO is moving up the charts. They're at number 7. This is competing against both the BEVs and the hybrids, and obviously is moving up the rankings. Here's the other piece that I'd like to share. This is the pure battery electric vehicle rankings. Now NIO in the number 5 spot there. But interestingly enough, the companies that they are positioned to take on are really trailing them. BMW is the only one that even made the top 20 for pure battery electric sales with almost 9,000. Now this is for the month of May, so it's a snippet of what is really going on. The big picture overview still remains the key, but we'll get to that in a second. This is where things really get interesting with the EU tariffs. And I've got a couple of things we're going to talk about specifically related to them, and why even these companies like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi did not want these tariffs to be lodged against Chinese EV players coming into the EU. This is where things get really wild, because BMW in overall passenger vehicle sales for May with almost 53,000. Now remember, we just looked at that and they had almost 9,000. So that means over 40,000, easily 40,000 of their sales or deliveries were ICE. The blue represents the ICE sales, the gas combustion engine. And now if China ends up coming back and taxing them, they're going to have a real problem with sales. And in the future, the EV sales are going to make up eventually the full market. So then you've got Mercedes-Benz with over 51,000 and then Audi with over 45,000. Both of those companies, almost all their sales look like they're coming from the ICE vehicles. So if tariffs come in and hit these companies, then it's going to be even easier and more of a no-brainer for the Chinese market, which has been and remains, in my mind, the most important market for NIO to compete in that premium BEV segment. They will be able to take even more sales. This is the piece I wanted to share, because I don't just want to say something. I'd rather show you where I'm seeing the information and getting it from. So here you go from CNYR. Major automotive companies from China and Europe held a closed-door meeting on Tuesday. According to attendees, the European car manufacturers unanimously opposed the EU's imposition of provisional anti-subsidy duties on Chinese electric vehicles. And then this, Chinese EV manufacturers asked the Chinese government to impose the harshest measures against the EU, proposing to raise the highest provisional tariffs on imported European cars with large engines by up to 25%. This is a real problem for those German brands. And this is only NIO being positioned in the premium segment. If we return to the BEV sales and look at how Tesla's positioned here, this is basically the placement that NIO is looking to now go after with the Onvo, the L60. The question being how many vehicles, what's the demand looking like for NIO? They're going to have the Onvo starting with deliveries in September. So in the next couple months, we're going to get a sense of what this looks like. Now, I don't know how fast NIO can ramp on the delivery side of things, and I'm not getting too far ahead of myself. I'm just going to track this stuff, but it is hard to imagine that NIO, now that they're at a point with the premium brand, that they are in the number 5 spot as of the May rankings overall, they're going to get more sales with the L60, with the Onvo. And so depending on how they show that, I don't know if they'll incorporate all the numbers under NIO, or if they'll have Onvo separate, or what that looks like. But obviously, they're going to be a competitor now in the mid-price range. And then we've got this, and this is maybe the part that I think shows the brilliance and the true long-term positioning by NIO and William Li. William Li, the CEO for NIO, the founder, I call him Mr. EQ because it's like he's living in the future and other people are just struggling to catch up and see some of the things that he's doing. Here's his response, and you see the date here. This is from June 19th, 2024. He responded to the issues related to European tariffs and the Firefly. That's going to be the most affordable sub-brand that NIO is going to come out with. And it's sort of targeted. I think it's perfectly targeting the EU market, the European market. And he says, even with a 31% tariff in Europe, the Firefly is still competitive. And there are long-term plans for localized manufacturing in overseas markets. How crazy would it be if we end up seeing the NIO premium brand just start dominating in China, but then Firefly and Onvo, the L60, and the affordability and the optionality with the battery swap and the power swap stations, because the users or consumers having the opportunity to buy the vehicle and not have to buy the battery, it discounts the price in a way to the consumer. At least that's what it looks like, on the upfront cost. And that is a way to sort of offset some of those tariffs. So NIO with just a beautiful business plan as more of this comes together and aligns. And so with the premium sales starting to really do well, and the months I'm not sure about, I'm really curious how July and August look like for NIO with the premium brand and those sales, with sort of maybe the pressure of the excitement around the L60 and the Onvo launch and those deliveries starting in September. And depending on demand and how all that plays out, I'm just not sure. Maybe we see, if there are too many people and such demand for the L60 Onvo that they are having to wait, maybe they end up buying NIOs. And I don't know, maybe it cannibalizes some of the NIO sales, the premium higher end value vehicles that NIO has. I really don't know what to think or expect, but I do think it's going to be fun to see how the rest of this plays and tracks out over the rest of the year in 2024. And then 2025, that's when Firefly is going to come out, the ET9 as well. So I love the positioning that NIO has. And as you see on the bottom of the screen, this remains a long-term play for me. I'm waiting until we see at least 1 million cumulative NIO vehicles on the roads, and that's the premium brand. So I'm only talking about that. They're over 500,000, obviously a little ways to go. And depending on the ramp, the speed, the demand, and if they end up taking over more of that market segment in the pure BEV space in China, because of the German brands ending up having issues or tariffs being imposed, this just gets really interesting for me to kind of sit back and watch moving forward. But drop it in the comments. I want to hear from you. Thanks. Have a great day. I'll see you all again very soon.